Welcome back to our summer series of Google Sheet data visualization. Google Sheet and Microsoft Excel. Okay, this is our week 3, right? Sorry for the week 1. The recording, I feel like the sound quality wasn't so good because I recorded at the cafeteria area at the museum. The Metropolitan Museum of Art. So the sound was sort of like the sound quality wasn't so good. There's a lot of noise in the background and a lot of distraction. But anyway, and then last week, week 2, we basically just sort of I used that week to celebrate. We have like a couple things, like 3 things on top of my mind that we celebrated for. So that's why we did not have any presentation for the data visualization. Okay, because I feel like the next celebrations they haven't got that championship title in 53 years. I just know that somebody told me. I look it up online to verify the information, and it's true. And we have this is the month they have sort of like Pride Month, So this coming Sunday they will be having a Pride March. So if you happen to be in town in New York City, welcome and enjoy the Pride March. Okay, but anyway, you're not missing anything any at all, because if you are able to hear us really well, there's the presentation, the PowerPoint, the slide. I'm showing you all the points. So if you follow those slides in the PowerPoint, you're not really missing anything any at all, because my conversation, my talk is basically centered around those key talking points. Okay, but anyhow, I just want to recap of the week 1 presentation. Okay, and then we're gonna pick it up and we continue on with our week 3 material. Okay, so let's just recap of the week 1 presentation. Okay, you're not really missing anything any at all, because it's going to be the slides is exactly the same, so just follow the slide. Okay, so let's just go over this one right here. Is a data visualization. Data visualization is, that's going to be our topics. That's going to be our summer series for the Google Sheet and Microsoft Excel. Okay, so what is exactly data visualization? I think it's just basically, it's just a big word. It's kind of like the word research. When you heard about that, you feel like, it's got to be something really, really big. It's a big word, but you know what? It's a data visualization. It's basically just like a picture. Like research is like doing homework. You look it up stuff online, Google. Nowadays, go to the library and check it out, the information that you're seeking for. It's just that's what it is. Yeah. It's just a big word. Do not let the big word make you associated with sort of like a time-consuming, lengthy process. You can make it as fast as 1 or 2 days, or 1 or 2 hours, or probably as long as like months or years. Okay, so data visualization is basically just a picture, or anything that's in the light family, like a graph, a chart, or maps. Okay. Think of all the things in life that really inspire you. And I'm sure that anything that inspires you, I know for sure that it will definitely fall into either of this area, whether it's art is really inspire you, music, or science, right? Think of all the things that really inspire you. When you take a look at it, you basically just get involved. You sit down, you reading all this stuff, you watch all this stuff, and you don't even pay attention to the times. The thing that make you feel inspired, motivate you, like you feel kind of tired, but suddenly the music comes up, or suddenly you take a look at some graphic design, some art, then suddenly you feel like, I have the energy to you keep going. Okay, it's just things that sort of like keep you started, keep you going. and you keep doing it, those are the things inspire you, and for sure it will fall into any of this area. The three main area is either art, music, or science, right? And they all have one thing in common, right? They all use picture of some sort, whether it's a graph, chart, map, they all use picture, right? And and for example, take a look at art. You go to the museum. That's actually a legitimate official place of art exhibit and all this stuff. Art museum is big time. It's all about images. It's all about canvas, painting, tapestry. It's all about like a sculpture. It's an image. The stuff that you see is kind of like visual representation. Okay, and those are the things that inspire you. Art, right? As a matter of fact, at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, they have one exhibit that they currently run, and it's called custom art, I believe. They exhibiting currently, one area, and it's custom art. It's a very, very, very nice. You take a look at all the dress, the sculpture, and all this stuff. Okay, and and the next area, the next field is music, right? Even though music, is something that you hear musically, melodically, it's basically it's just audible. Not audio, it's audible, right? But remember, the musician and all the music composition originally derived. They basically just sort of like when it comes to like composing music, harmonizing music, and all this stuff. It's all actually just originally derived and based on the circle of fifth, right? And this is the circle of fifth. I come to know music theory from the last, I would say probably the last 20 weeks, right? It's the last, I don't know, maybe 2 semesters. And I probably learned so much music in as little as like 10 weeks. I took online courses, and I basically committed to, I don't know, maybe once a week, and then you just do some homework and all that. And I learned so much about music theory in I would say probably about in 20 weeks, okay? And I can't believe it. The class is only like once a week, and you just have to diligently study and do all this stuff. And I learned so much. And all of them, all the music composition musician relied on is the circle of fifth. They explain the music harmonization from the circle of fifth. Let's say if they always say that, oh, what song, what key, what's the original key the song is in, right? That's exactly the circle of fifth. And then if they want to transpose or transcribe, they have to base on the circle of fifth, right? And you can learn so much about music theory using the keyboard, piano, because I started out learning the musical instrument, the acoustic guitar, but basically just chord. But when it comes to like music theory, I feel like it's far better and quicker for you to grab those music theory using the keyboard, because you can actually see all the notes. It's a lot easier, okay? So for you, everybody, it's true for everybody. If you're interested in learning music theory, you start with a keyboard, okay? So far we have art, music, and take a look at the science, okay? The applied science, applied mathematics field would be, I don't know, economics and statistics. Those are the two fields that is well known for applied mathematics, applied science. Okay, take a look at economics. A very well-known economic graph is supply and demand. How would they teach all this stuff without using graph, right, or picture? A supply and demand. If you take a look at supply and demand, it's a well-known economics in, like in the economy. That's how you be able to explain why the price is so high and why the price is so low, right? If the price is so high, which means that if you take a look at where my mouse cursor is, that means the price is up here. Why? Because the demand is high, but there's less supply. there are not enough number of suppliers, providing, offering those kind of product and services. That's why when the demand is higher than the supply, the bigger the gaps, the higher the prices is, right? And then if you take a look at the prices, if it's low, which means it's right here on the y-axis, right? Then you basically just take a look at it. Where is the demand? Demand is very low, but you have a lot of supplier, right? It's kind of like if you go into sort of like a market, and there's so many people, like so many restaurants already in that market. Chances are you not be able to raise the price higher, right? Because so many restaurants in that region, in that area, is actually offering the same kind of food, and same kind of services, right? So that's why when you take a look at the volume of supplier and the volume of demand, you'll be able to tell, okay, whether or not, it's a very good market for you to get into. So that's why when store try to determine whether or not they should go into any market, they take a look at to see whether or not that product the market has already been saturated. It's kind of like saying that, if the market has already been saturated, meaning that they have already more than enough suppliers for that kind of products. So chances are you not be able to make a profit, easily. Okay, so apply field economics right there. Supply and demand is a graph. Okay, it's a classic graph. Okay, and then let's move on to statistics, right? Statistics is actually a well-known subject that basically is an applied mathematics. Okay, and they talk about the normal distribution. They study about population, things about the population, right? And statistic people, they enable to sort of like study about the population by sort of like testing everybody in the population. United States population is like how many? It's like 300 millions of people. A smaller country like Japan is probably like 150 millions of people, right? And then India is kind of like 1 billions, or China probably 1.1. I don't know, right? But you know what? When they want to make a prediction, they have to know about the population, but they enable to ask everybody, for the entire population. So they basically have to do a sample size. A sample size is small enough, but it's actually big enough for them to really accurately predict how the overall population behave. Okay, so that's why statistic is a well-known applied math area that they come in and do it. And when they study about data set, right, and the data set, when you collect all the data for that sample, smaller size of the population, the sample size, and then if you graph that data set, and it basically flows a normal distribution. And how do we know it's a normal distribution? Normal distribution, the graph of the normal distribution based on the data, it basically just like this shape right here. It's kind of like a bell shape. This is what they call a bell shape. It's like a little mountain or something. That means they perfectly, totally symmetrical. That means if you were to fold this graph in half, right, then the left side would exactly match with the right side. Okay, that's a normal distribution. And why, if the data set follows the normal distribution? Because if the graph of the population, the sample the size is a normal distribution, which means that a lot of things holds true. A lot of empirical rule holds true. Okay, for example, let's say that they study about the average age, or the average. Let's say they study about the average weight, okay, of a person, right, in that population, and they say that the average weight is 100 pounds. Okay, and the standard deviation is STD. D is 10. Okay, so the average weight of the population is 100, and the standard deviation is 10. and then the population follows the normal distribution, which means that 69%, I forgot, it's almost 70% of the population their weight will fall within one standard deviation. Within one standard deviation, which means that it's the average plus or minus the standard deviation, okay? One standard deviation, okay? And then almost 90%, 95% will fall within two standard deviation, which means that the weight of the 95% of the population will fall probably in between the average weight plus or minus two standard deviation, which means that the standard deviation is 10, two standard deviation is 20, and then 100 plus or minus 20, which means that the 95% of the population weight will fall within two standard deviation, within 80 pounds to 120 pounds, given that the average weight is 100 and the standard deviation is 10, okay? That's exactly what this one is all about. I think this is, this graph right here is an age, okay? It's not a weight. I try to, let me show you, you know what? So that's what it is. Let me show you a better graph for, okay. Okay, this one right here, perfect. Okay, right here, they study about the population by using a sample size, as a whole lot smaller size of the population, okay? And when they graph the data set, when they compile all the data in that data set and they graph that data set, it's follow the normal distribution. It means that the data is normally distributed, okay? And the shape of it is like the bell shape. It's like a little mountain here, okay? That means that if the average, the mean is 90 pounds, the average weight of the population is 90 pounds, which means that 68% of the people in that population their weight will fall within one standard deviation, which means that it's going to be like 90 pounds plus or minus the standard deviation, whatever the standard deviation is. Over here, they give you two standard deviation is 72.85, and you know the means is 90, so you can figure it out, the one standard deviation by calculating the difference between 72.85 and 90, and they divide it by 2. Okay, so that's to give you a standard deviation, one standard deviation. 95% of the population is within two standard deviation, which means that 95% of the population, their weight would fall typically between the range 90 plus or minus two standard deviation. Let's say the standard deviation is 10. Two standard deviation is 20, right? And the average means, the average weight is 90, so that's going to be 70 to 110. Okay, that's all it means. Okay, so I mean, when it comes to like statistics, I mean, it's really hard for you to explain all this stuff without using graph, right? That's why. I mean, take a look at all this stuff that's really inspire you. They all have one thing in common. They all use picture. Okay. Why? Picture help us to focus, understand, and remember. We stay engaged longer when there is some visual representation, okay? And the second part of the week one presentation is why is a data visualization is important. It simplifies a complex data. You have the entire data set. Let's say that you study your sample size like, you know, it's not 1,000 people. Let's say that we simplify it, maybe only 300 or 400 people. But looking at the data for 300 and 400 people is still huge, a lot of information. So when they graph based on those data in that particular data set, you'll be able to see things a lot quicker. Okay? You understand better. And so since you understand better, that means that you'll be better you'll be able to make a better decision, right? It's kind of like you've been informed, you're better informed, quicker and faster. And then because you're more informed, your decision based on more accurate result. So that decision is actually a better decision. And the better the decision is, the better the outcome is, okay? Have you ever heard of sort of like a phrase they say that a picture is worth than 1,000 words? A picture is worth more than 1,000 words. That's why, because graph and images can simplify all this data, because if let's say a person presented with a lot of text and a lot of numbers, it's sort of like a text heavy or number heavy format, chances are you not be able to pick up the information. You process the information a lot slower, and then you do not retain the information, a lot of information. Human brain is wired for visual processing, and what that means is we detect color, shape, and pattern, instantly. Direction far quicker than text and number, okay? And I remember that I just did some research when I prepared for the week 1 presentation, and they say that we remember 80% of what we see, but only 20% of what we hear, okay? So that means that not only does our human brain process the information quicker, but we tend to retain those information that we process much longer, in the later in months to come, years to come. Okay? So first of all, simplify the complex data, right? If you take a look at all this, very simple, the most simplified data set right here. And you take a look at the corresponding representation, the corresponding visual representation of this table right here, this picture right here. Which one is easier for you to understand the data? If I'm asking, if you try to answer the question, they say that which university has the largest freshman class? It takes you for a while to go through, this table, even though this is a very, very simple, data table, right? But it takes you for a while. But if you take a look at the picture, which is the corresponding visual representation of the table, you'll be able to, say it very quickly, University A, right? Which one actually has the largest sophomore? It's also University A. Which one has the least? You take a look at maybe the least junior student body. I would say probably either University A or University C. Is that true? Junior. Which one has the lowest one? C? Well, look at that. The one that actually have the biggest software student body is actually University B. So obviously, is the two school is a University A has only 3,600 and University C has only 3,800. So answering those questions by looking at the picture, you'll be able to answer the question a lot faster. Okay. And of course, if you understand better and faster, you'll be able to make a better decision, okay? And better decision translates means a better outcome and better life, And this is actually the very critical part of it. You study and the fact that, images, picture worth more than 1,000 words. So images and visual representation is tremendously useful. Then how do we apply that stuff in our everyday life? That's That's the whole purpose of studying all this, all these theories and all this stuff, is when you be able to apply, like when you apply the science into reality, into everyday business challenges, and that's what the field of statistics comes in, and the field of economic comes in. How do they solve this sort of like social, economic, inequality? How do they solve all this stuff? And how do they solve, a lot of, modern days and everyday issue is through statistic, probability changes and all this stuff, okay? Just, if you know that images and picture worth more than 1,000 words, next time when you navigate in a museum or a city, try to use map, right? And learning a new skill like learning English, okay? Like when you try to learn English, if you know that picture and graph is more useful, and not only does it help you to understand the material a lot faster and quicker, but it's also help you to remember, retain those information, the stuff you learn a lot longer in life later on. Try to incorporate, try to use and make use of graph in learning a new skill like learning English. How? Let's say I have a very good classic example of where is it? Visual. Right here, this is actually online dictionary, okay? And let's say that if you want to, let's say that, like visualization. Try it, right?
Visualization.
Okay, visual images, right? Try to look up some word. I don't know, like major, right? Subject, majority,
Majority.
absolute majority. Okay, try to learn. Try to sort of like learn anything that you want to learn, any skill. Try to incorporate using graph picture, okay? Because that's going to help your learning process a lot quicker and more effectively, okay? That's just like one example. And personal finance, of course, how do you apply the stuff that you learn and using graph into your financial life, your personal financial life, right? Like when it comes to like, okay, should I apply for a credit card? What types of credit card should I apply for? If you have a good credit score, I'm rooting for you, right? If you have a very good credit score, then what kind of credit should I apply, right? Take a look at the graph to see exactly how does it say, right? I believe that I have, let's see. Yeah, anyway. So these are basically just like a main points that I'm talking about from week 1 presentation. If a map help you to navigate through a museum, then it definitely help you to navigate through the city, right? Then a graph and a chart can guide you through a complex information puzzle, okay? In my conclusion, data visualization is visible, fast to understand, and easy to communicate, okay? That's it, remember that we make decision more often than we think, right? We make the decision not monthly on a regular basis, not monthly or weekly. We make the decision every day, you know, kind of like daily and hourly too. Okay, so we need to, and then our goal is to make a good decision. Think of our lives is like a little dot, you know, in the matrix, in the graph. And where we are right now, it basically is the result of the series of the decision we make in the past. And where we will be, it's kind of like the decision that we make now. We want our lives, a little dot representing our life. On that graph, on that matrix, is actually move, move up as much as we can, as high as we can, right? We don't want, to make a series of all bad choices, and and then our lives, our point will go down. But then you have to understand that there is no, we can do as much research, we can do as much homework and studying before making a decision, but of course there's no guarantee that that's going to be a right decision. We just hope that we do as much as we can in our part, and and take highly speculated educated guess, okay, and hopefully that the outcome turn out, especially the higher the level the decision is at, the more uncertainty, right? So you just have to do the best we can. We know that we have to study and do some research and do some homework as much as we can in advance, but then there's no guarantee. And especially at the high level, the higher the level the decision is, you cannot reverse it. You have whatever you make the decision, you don't know for sure how the result or how the output turns out. And then the thing, you cannot reverse it easily. It's not like a low level decision. You wake up and you feel like, I need to go someplace, and I can. There's a multiple way to get to that final destination. Which route should I take? Which train can I take? Like here in New York, I feel like I'm grateful that they have a great public transit. The subway runs 24 hours. And I feel like let's say that if I decided to take one route, right, and then if I don't like it, the next day I'm gonna just reverse that and say I'm gonna take a different route. I'm gonna take a different train instead of like the R train. I'm gonna take the one train, or I'm gonna take the number 2 train. Right, so I mean, your decision doesn't have that kind of impact or lasting effects on you. But if, let's say that if you make a decision at a high level when it comes to like investment, you don't know for sure how the result is going to turn out. Right? I mean, sometimes it's investment. It means that you can lose and you can gain. Right? You can gain some profit, but you can also make a loss too. So that's explain why you think that a lot of people at the higher level of management, like the executive people in the management in the company, why you think that they get paid so much higher? What do you think that majority of their time they spend on, right? I mean, the higher they are, the higher pay they got. But then the thing is, they spend a lot of time making the decision. That's why, they're not really traveling to different places. They're not busy traveling to different places. No, they spend most of the time on high impact decision making. They spend most of the time going to the meeting, listening to sort of like a sales report, reading all the financial statements, and sort of like evaluating all the risks and all this stuff, and therefore, and then eventually they make the decision. So they spend a lot of time making the decision ultimately. So they have to busy themselves with all these activities, reading all the complex financial report, sales report and all this stuff, When they make the decision, if that decision is right, the company is growing, the stock prices increase, right? And the profit for the companies is go up. But if the decision is not right, then, the company's losses. And then, you know what? I feel like people at the upper management, they get changed, they get rotated more often than people at the low level. The company, and the people in the company, the employees at the low level, you know what? They're still doing the mundane routine tasks, they don't get changed, they don't get rotated as often as the people on the top, So that's why, and you know what, if you don't make a good decision, for direction of the company and for the clarity, and then the profit margin level is not going as expected, I feel like there's a power that is higher than the CEO, the chief executive officer, or the people at the top, which and they are shareholder, they can actually just let you go too, So anyway, that's why I feel like we make decision more often than we think on the regular basis, daily and hourly, and we just hope that we make the best decision. And in our life, there will be time that we have to make the decision on our own. Right? You cannot rely on the opinions, the advice of other people, because if you listen to other people, that means that you're making the decision for them, not for you. So that means that there will be time that you learn how to sort of like gather all the information. It's kind of like information gathering, like researching the stuff that you need to look into. The more time you study and do the homework, the better deal you get, the better result you get. Okay? And you want to make a good decision, but of course, you have to understand that the higher the level is, you cannot reverse your decision quickly. Especially the one very important, but then there's more risk, more uncertainty, more risk. But what we can do, we basically just do the best we can. All right. That's why data visualization is important. Okay. And you be able to go further and you get more result with the right tools, okay? And Google Sheet and Graph and all this stuff will provide you that tools, okay? It's not they providing the tools. They in and of itself is a tool, okay? You go further and faster. I remember riding on the train in one of these morning, right? And I saw an ad, the billboard or something, and they say that you learn skill for in-demand career at no cost to you. And at that time, I prepared for this data visualization components of the Google Sheet. Immediately, I was thinking about, maybe we learn in Microsoft Excel and Google Sheet. Graph and chart for in-demand personal success at no cost to you, right? And with the Microsoft Excel and Google Sheet, especially for the data visualization, the graph, it can go as far as your imagination take you, right? So you just have to imagine it. Your job is to imagine it and then use the tool, Those are the tools for you, all right? Google Sheet in and of itself are the tool for you at no cost to you. And once you probably make a good investment, you'll be able to sort of like get some budget. You can invest in getting, like the entire Microsoft, Office suite. Microsoft Excel will provide you even more, polished graph and all this stuff. Okay, that is basically just the recap of week 1. Okay. And remember, we all wanted sort of like a better. We all wanted to have a better place in our life. We want our life to go as high as we can. So we just have to make a good decision. We just hope that we learn as much we can in order to make not just a decision, but the best decision, because those best decision will translate to be a better outcome, a better life. Okay, it's kind of like, have you ever heard of the phrase? People say that we make choices, and then our choice make us, right? We just hope that we don't make a bad choice. You know, oh Lord help us, right? You know, and the higher the level the decision is at, the more risk involved. You know, especially when it comes, it's very true when it comes to investment, which means, you know, you can lose, you can gain, right? In the investment, you can lose, you can make a profit and you can lose, right? But do not get attached to sort of like physical materialistic things, okay? If you lose it, you know, it's okay. You know, we can always have the next opportunities, okay? That's it. And I want to show you, continue on with week 3 presentation. I want to show you some of the graphs. The Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, in that matter, I think they probably have, you know, 20 plus graphs available, okay? So I'm not going to go in details each one of those graphs. I basically just want to go kind of like identify and pick out, you know, some of the best, not the one that stand out, okay? Let's see. Okay. Oh no. Okay. Okay. This is they probably have like 20 graphs available. If you want, you can go to okay. Now let me just go over some of the graphs, okay? And just this one. This is probably like I like this graph. Okay, as I prepare and I research for the presentation, for the data visualization, I learned so much about this stuff. Okay, we're gonna learn together. Okay, and when I take a look at this timeline graph, and I feel like, hey man, this is so cool. This is what we spend. I don't know. The last thing we're working on is this Excel conditional formatting, right? We do a 5-week calendar view. It's like that. We do kind of like 5-week calendar view on Google Sheet, and I take a look at this graph and I feel like it's already generated for us. Okay, let's say that you want to, let's say that instead of like the end is the 12th of September, you say maybe it's a 9 extended to like the 25th of September. Right? See that? I just say maybe I'm gonna do you know, maybe 29. There you go, right? Or this one right here, the UI client. Can you see it? Right here, extend it back to, I don't know, maybe 11. Right? Just kind of like that. Okay. You see that? You see that? A technical, let's say that technical development. Okay? All of this stuff. You know what? But it's good that we learn. You know, we spend how many weeks? It's probably 10 weeks working on coding, learning how to use the conditional formatting in Excel to implement the calendar, the 5-week calendar. And now this graph is automatically do it. So it's good that we learn how to go in, do the conditional formatting, because it's very come in handy, that skill, because when it comes to like customizing, you know exactly where to look and edit the code, okay? But even the interface for this one even better, okay? A lot of stuff has already been implemented for us, but it's good that we understand the process of writing those code and how do you implement those things, okay? It's just like, so when you need to customize, something that is really, really unique, specifically to your own need, to your personal need, you know where to go to and which one to look for, okay? And then after that, we want to sort of like, we want to integrate with the stuff that's already been working. So you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? The stuff that already been done so professionally, so good, you only want to customize the stuff that you need that is not available, okay? So that's why all 10 weeks that we spend time learning how to code, I feel like, hey, this is exactly what we've been doing. Now I just found this graph and I feel like, wow, this is cool, right? And if you want, you can actually go to you see all this stuff right here, calendar chart, right? This is actually Google developers. This is like the entire worldwide community of developers, okay? And you take a look at how they actually implement all this stuff. If you're interested in looking into, how these people, how this communities, worldwide communities of developer, coding all this stuff. They have a different chart. This is probably the list of all the charts available in Google Sheet. And imagine that Microsoft Excel will provide you even more. And then their graph is even more polished and fancy, okay? Like some of the conditional formatting, you want to do certain thing, but it's limited. Microsoft Excel has more flexibilities. But whatever that you be able to learn, whatever that you learn in Google Sheet, you will be using those stuff to learn more stuff in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so if you're interested in looking into to see exactly how all these graphs are implemented by developers, you can look into all this stuff. It's like you have your favorite movie, right? And then there's a book that they basically sell it at the bookstore or the library. They tell you exactly how the movie are made, how the scene are being shot, right? And how do they make all this sort of like surrounded sound, a side effect, the side effect of those sound, all of this stuff right here. Okay. The next one I want to show you is a bubble chart. Okay, let's take a look at this one right here. This one is kind of like a bubble chart, and this website right here, they give you a very good illustration of the bubble, the bubble chart. It basically is just like a circle, okay, and you can see by looking at the size of the circle, okay, you can see the data is a lot faster and you can understand it a lot quicker, okay. Let's say that this is all the data breach, which means that the data is being stolen, okay. You take a look at exactly T-Mobile, we're talking about like 37 millions of record, lost because there's a data breach. Somebody hacked into the system. The national public data. Which one is this one? Oh, take a look at the biggest circle, the biggest bubble. It's a national public data. Read more information about that. This is not 1 million, right? This is 1 trillion. Record lost. 2.7 billion record of U.S. citizens used for background check. Leak on a hacking forum. Name, social security, physical address, and alias, right? And Think about that. All the stuff, the stealing, the data being stolen, is actually taking place right here in the United States, right? I mean, it's, we growing up in Vietnam, and we always thinking about we lost $5, $10, but those, you know, at the high level, data is valuable. Data is critical. Remember that every big corporation here in the United States or in the world, they actually build their infrastructure and the backbone of information data. Okay, so data is a really, really valuable asset. You take a look at it and take a look at exactly where is the data stolen. The data theft, identity theft, right? It's right here in the United States. Ticketmaster, right? You know what? They do not steal your money, but they steal your money, indirectly. It's a lot of money, from stealing your personal information. All of this stuff right here. Facebook, right? Yeah, Merit International, River City. Take a look at all this friend network, right? A lot of them is actually taking place occur here in the big country. Okay, this is the world's biggest data breaches and hacks. They hack into your system. Nowadays, electronic devices like your phone, right, your computer, and all this stuff, they can hack into it if you're connected to a public Wi-Fi. The one that have no require no password or any kind of like encryption. Let's say if you connect to a public Wi-Fi using your phone, your personal electronic devices, the very favorite personal electronic devices or cell phone, and we do a lot of our stuff, checking our bank accounts and all this stuff. You connect to public Wi-Fi, and you know what? When you connect to public Wi-Fi, you use the public Wi-Fi, people, they can listen to it. They have some device, they can listen to it, and then they can actually just get your password and all this stuff. But nowadays, there's no way you can protect yourself. Just do as much as you can, okay? They can listen to when you log into your online banking, on your bank's app, using the public Wi-Fi. They can listen to it, and they can actually get the data that you transmitted, your password, user ID, and all this stuff. Yep. I learned it from one of these workshops. I think it's operating network, cybersecurity or something, and I feel like, that's just scary. But there's no way you can protect yourself. You do as best as you can. Okay. This is actually a very good example of a bubble chart. Okay, and see what else. Organization chart. Let's see. Organizational chart. Close this one. Organizational chart, like let's say that's geography chart. Okay. Let's say that here they probably have the list of the country. This is our data. Okay. They basically just have a data set, collecting data from I don't know, maybe it's sort of like the world biggest coffee exporter, like the top country in the world that export coffee production, all this country right here. And then this is going to be our data set, and then you basically just generated a graph, okay? And then this graph right here, let's just make it a little bigger, right? Like Brazil, Vietnam, Brazil, right? right? And then take a look at all these things right here, right? United States, France, Taiwan. Okay, so those are the graph, right? And the next one is, let's say that you have this one is cool, that looks like I don't know, look like speedometer or sort of like a dashboard in a car or something, or if you probably in the places where you kind of like you take a seat as some sort of like controller, cabinet or something. This is kind of cool, and then you can determine any number that considered to be like a red zone, will be represented here, all this stuff. Let's say you consider that, hey, anything that above a certain number are in the green zone, and then you'd be able to clearly show that. I mean, take a look at the data, the sales data on the left, and take a look at the corresponding graph on the right. Which one that be able to help you to see information a lot better? Of course, the picture, the graph, right? That's it. And this one right here, it's kind of like the a tree map, I think, okay? And you can look into the tree maps here. Tree map chart, right? Take a look at the tree maps here. Okay, all this graph right here generated based on the data in this table right here on the left, right? But if you take a look at the data, the data set, it's really hard for you to see all this one. They organize you. Now, when you take a look at the graph, they basically translate into a chart for you, Like take a look at this one right here, college major, and they divide it into, I don't know, they divide it into sort of like a Bachelor of Science and Bachelor of Art, a major, and then within the Bachelor of Science, these are the major and the degree that they offer a Bachelor of Science, and within the Bachelor of Art category, these are the major that offer you a Bachelor of Art, right? But if you take a look at this data right here, it takes you for a while, okay? So we just have to sort of like prepare our data set and collect data and, prepare our data in the way that, the graph can be generated correctly. The graph can be correctly generated. Okay, so you have to sort of like meet a certain structure, right? But we're gonna learn more about how to do that in the next, coming weeks. Okay, and we're gonna go into each of these graphs in details, and then how do we prepare our data in the data set to the point, to the level where they expect us to generate the graph correctly. Okay, and then we learn how to customize those graphs. Okay, let's see, this is a waterfall. If you like this types of graph, I feel like this one is probably more of like kind of like they want to show you the prices, like the stock prices increase or decrease, so they use the waterfall graph would be best types of graph to express or display those information, right? Yeah. This is kind of like very traditional common graphs, okay? Like a radar chart graphs, okay? And if you're really interested in to look into those these types of graph further, I would say just go to here and then learn how, the people that develop and implement these types of graphs, okay? What else? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But you know what? They are, they have Google Sheet. As far as like graph, they probably have 20 plus tabs of graphs available. Okay, and you know what? Those are just sort of like a typical, not a typical, but the one that stand out from the majority of them. But we will be going into those graphs individually, in the next coming weeks. Okay. So that's going to be conclude the end of our week 3 presentation, and hopefully, we'll be able to completely cover this area, the data visualization of Google Sheet and Microsoft Excel in the next, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 months in the summer. It's possible because I try to roll out once a week as opposed to like every 2 weeks. But you know what? Let's see how things goes. Okay. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week 4. Okay. And remember, you know what? We all want to have a better life. We all want to be at a better position, be a better place in our lives, right? So, and those are the result of the series of all the decisions, choices we make, right? So hopefully we make good choices. Imagine that, if we make a series of bad choices, where would we be end up, right? It could be end up, someplace probably further down. We don't want that, okay? We want to make a right decision, a good decision, a better decision, a best decision, right? And hopefully that our lives can go as far as we can, and as far as we can, as hard as we can, right? We make choices, and our choices make us. And remember, picture I'm worth more than 1,000 words, okay? So the next time when you want to solve your personal issue or anything, try to incorporate, looking for ways so that you can incorporate images and graph into your homework. It's sort of like your preparation for that kind of stuff, Don't think of data visualization or research. Those are just like a big name. They mean basically it's the same stuff. Just look at up stuff online and prepare, your stuff as quick as like 1 or 2 hours. Okay? Thank you, and I hope to see you soon.